Hey y'all, so I just want to make a video on that time when this is the second video I believe now in this series, but that time when the Supreme Court made a horrendous decision, and I'm not saying horrendous in I already think it's horrendous because of what it did and how it progressed one didn't actually progress the country anywhere, but it moved it closer to the Civil War, but it was horrendous even from a legal standpoint. But that is the Dred Scott decision in 1857. Now, many of you probably know that this was a decision that stripped basically stripped states' rights from the North. That's how I view it. Because background, Dred Scott, I don't know, was that his name? I imagine that's his name. But a slave named Dred Scott was taken from a southern state up to a northern state because his master had to, or his owner or whatever, had to I imagine had to do business there. So then Dred Scott, I don't know if he ran away or if he did actually go file legal proceedings, but like a legal case. But basically, after I imagine it took a couple years, but the Supreme Court heard the case because the slave owner was saying this is still his slave, and that no matter what the North state law, it's still property because he would have viewed it as property, and by it I mean a human person, anyways. And so he would have viewed this slave, his slave, as property that in the southern and his southern rights would have been continued, anyways. And the slave would say that he was brought to a northern state that had, I believe it was Illinois, but I don't remember. But that he was brought up to a northern state where they say that, I believe they'd say that you can't own slaves, some like that, because abolitionist laws in the North weren't as clear. I don't believe they weren't. Yeah, they weren't as clear as you can't own slaves, but. And so then the Supreme Court sided with the slave owner and basically wiped out all of it. Was kind of like what Roe v. Wade did. It wiped out all of this northern states' say on the matter and their laws and made them all null and void, basically, because they can't enforce them. Because I think some northern laws were like, if you try and capture a runaway slave and send him back, then you're going to get either put in prison or fined or something like that. And those laws would have been wiped off the books, ruled as unconstitutional. And this very, oh my goodness, I believe this, because in the North, I believe it was in the North, before the Civil War, in the North, there was this conspiracy that the South controlled the government, and that the government was just a bunch of Southern sympathizers and who wouldn't advance abolitionism. And now there's more to it than that, but that's the aspect I'm going to focus on in this video. But yeah, mainly and I imagine this just reinforced that, and I believe it was after this where John Brown did his thing in Kansas or Nebraska. No, it was Kansas because it was bleeding Kansas. After this, Congress also got violent. There was a Southern congressman, so when a Northern congressman, I believe he was trying to talk about slavery, mention slavery, and the Southern senator literally got out his cane and started beating the Northern senator. And so that's what I'm like, after this decision, there had already been tension building up in the nation, but I think this really just released a valve of violence Now, am I saying that if the Supreme Court ruled with the abolitionists, the violence just wouldn't have happened or the Civil War would have been averted? No. But I think that this was a very crucial decision that was made. And this is also why I say precedent is not everything. And that's what we need to realize, that just because 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 200 years ago, some completely set of justices with completely different morals and ways of life said something was okay, does not mean it was okay. Because in 1857, they said a slave was property. Now we have abolished slavery. So our society and our laws have changed. Number two, in 1896, after we had abolished slavery, the Supreme Court said that segregation with equality is constitutional. Then in 1954, the Supreme Court, the Brown Board of Education, said that actually it was unconstitutional to segregate people because it's inherently unequal. And so that's why I'm like, it's happened before and it needs to happen again. Precedent, it is important, but it is not everything. It is not everything. Anyways, basically, Dred Scott decision really just inflamed the tensions between the country, between the North and the South. That violence broke out in the Midwest. The president, who was I believe he was he was a Northern Democrat, a New York Democrat, and he had Southern sympathies, and he just didn't want to touch the slavery issue, so he literally didn't do anything, anyways, and then blamed abolitionists. I said, okay, but yeah, it was a very important case that probably still, I don't like, it probably still has effects to this day and how people study law. But yeah, it's a short video, but yeah, I'll see you in the next one.